So I've been creating a series of these short screenshot videos around the unit design process, trying to document my thinking on how all this builds into a unit of study. So I tried to be as concise as possible, at least for me. I tend to be a little bit too lengthy in some of my work, but looking at this one page and thinking about curriculum design, I see a lot of connections to the work of Grant Wiggins, Jay McTighe, Larry Ainsworth, Elliot Eisner, all kind of saying the same things, Rick DeFore, around what do we want our students to understand, know, and be able to do? How are we going to know they understand? How are we going to teach for understanding? What do we do when they get it or don't get it? So what I've tried to document here in terms of the research unit I've been creating and documenting for 12th grade is this overall unit goal of conducting a sustained research project over a topic of student choice that students will argue and present through writing and through speaking. So doing that, I got some essential questions that may help guide some of our inquiry in selecting those topics and digging deeper into our research and thinking about what we're passionate about and what we want to see change in the world. So this is going to be kind of my unit launch and something that's going to be sustained throughout the entire time. Sorry for the email launch there. So here what I have is I essentially have three essential scales that I'm building from. I'm playing around with this conative scale and a blended scale, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But what you see is I'm going to have in this unit a component dedicated towards research, a component dedicated towards organizing that research into a final organized product argumentative essay, and then transition into students being able to present that information verbally to their peers. So what you're going to see on these links is access to the scale I started with, and then I take apart my scale, thinking about which targets on my scale go together, which ones are related that I would probably teach together and have kids process together, and then a lesson cluster sequence. So if you look up here, I've color-coded. So I'm going to start with these two targets. This is my monitoring and assessment. So all of these are links to different forms of assessment and my general time frame for what each would take. So I have done that for research. I've also done it for my argumentative essay that I want kids to be able to write as a result of this unit. Again, I color-coded what I thought were related targets. Sometimes my foundational targets related directly to my learning goal targets. And then I started arranging them in clusters in terms of related targets in the sequence I would teach, while still kind of linking and organizing the assessments that I want to use and the general time frame. So I did that for argumentative. So my kids have gathered research and they've organized their research, and now I'm into the presentation piece. And again, I've done the same exact thing I did with my research and my argumentative essay, where I've created my scale, unpacked my standards, color-coded what I thought were related targets, and then started organizing those targets into a lesson sequence with some assessment pieces and general time frame. So going through those three scales, if you don't follow Murphy's Law, this is going to take about 28 days. I know things get in the way, so it probably is going to take longer, but at least have a general time frame of how things will go. This is one I've really been playing around with and not quite sure where I want it to be. So I've taken this notion of the conative skills, communication and collaboration, initiative and self-direction. I know that when kids are doing self-sustained research on a topic or passion of their choice, A lot of times when we do that, we hit a lot of roadblocks when we're formulating our own thoughts, and writers hit a lot of roadblocks, and speakers even hit roadblocks. What I want kids to be able to do is have that drive, have that initiative, rely on each other, communicate when they're struggling, collaborate when they're struggling, communicate and collaborate when they're not struggling to help other people who are struggling throughout this process. To me, these are important skills that I want kids to have, and they're directly connected to the research and writing topics. So this is me playing around with the cognitive scale. It's not something that I feel is ready to use yet, but it certainly is something that I'm very interested in. And what I'm thinking is that these will eventually be inserted into my other scales here. But this is a way for me to show you how this all kind of comes together into a big picture in terms of unit planning. So with this whole thing planned out, I now can focus exclusively on how I'm going to teach these things and what I'm going to do when kids get it and don't get it. So all my cognitive energy is going to be spent there and not in what I want my students to know and be able to do or understand, or how I'm going to know, because I've planned that up front. In April, we're going to be talking a little bit about instructional strategies, and then next year we're going to devote a tremendous amount of time towards instruction. So I hope this is helpful in creating kind of a bigger picture for you around the rigorous unit design process. Thanks.